I just wanted to say my shed members, we only have 54. We're a fairly small shed, but they're all older persons, and some of them you have to take them by the hand gently and lead them through the process. But just getting them to the table was the first and the hardest bit. Once they got there and overcame their fear, I don't know what the fear is, but there is a fear out there amongst older people about technology. They're worried about making them look silly. But we worked out how to do that. Once we get them settled down in front of the laptop and show them this thing is not going to empty their bank accounts, and plunder their superannuation. And there's a whole bunch of fears out there. They're in there with their ears back. So good luck and good afternoon. And Natika, if you want me to come back in at some stage, I think you've still got my telephone number, give us a call.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, thanks, Gary.
Okay.
All right,
well done.
thank you.
Good luck, folks.
All right.
Thanks very much, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. So to start off, I'll just do a quick introduction as to who I am and why you should be listening to me. I do thank you all for your time today. I am the lead digital mentor for both Linkwest and ASCA. So ASCA stands for the Australian Seniors Computer Clubs Association, and they're the peak body representing seniors and technology throughout Australia. They've been around for about 20 odd years, and Linkwest is the peak body representing neighbourhood centres and community resource centres around WA, and they've been around for closer to 40 odd years. So my background is in community resource centres. I've been involved in that network in various towns throughout regional and remote WA for the last probably almost 20 odd years. And I'm just a nerd who tends to be in small towns with limited tech support, and I've had to work stuff out for myself. So I have no formal training in IT, etc., etc. I just am stubborn. I get that from my dad, and I know how to Google. And I don't like to let technology win when it poses a problem. And I've lived in towns the size of Wyndham, of about 800 people, and very limited access to tech support for those for a town like Wyndham. And now I live in Kununurra, which is the big smoke for me. There's about 5,000 of us that live here, but again, we're remote and it's hard to find tech support. So I'm pretty much the go-to person in town for anything to do with Apple products, because our two IT support companies don't want to touch them. But I don't touch hardware. I'm just a software troubleshooter. So my role with Linkwest and ASCA involves working with organisations as a capacity builder, and that's just a fancy way for saying I am there to help you to access the grants available through the Be-Connected project, to offer support and coaching for your digital mentors, and to help you in any way, shape or form that will help you to support your members in embracing technology today. So I'm going to start with talking about the Be-Connected project. It is a federally funded initiative that's been around since mid-2017. They took about 6 months to sort of get the first lot of capacity building projects and network partner projects up and running. It's the Australian federal government's objective to get everybody online so that we can use MyGov, basically. But if I was to go to a group of people who aren't particularly keen on technology and say, hey, come along, let's learn about technology because the government want you to do it this way, you're not going to get many people that are wanting to uptake. So I work with organisations who focus on the nice to have sides of tech. So things like, which I'm certain that you've all probably embraced in the last 6 to 8 weeks, talking with your family via video chats, doing other bits and pieces that are nice to have, that add value to our lives. So there's been a lot of studies done about the risk of social isolation that comes with lack of digital literacy. So the Be-Connected project, the organisations I've been working with in WA are all not-for-profit community-based organisations, not dissimilar to Men's Sheds. And as Gary said, he came along to one of our first digital mentor training, full-day trainings in, that was October last year. But I've been working with digital mentors like this from here since early 2018. So we've been coaching CRCs because a lot of the times people think that, oh, I can't be a digital mentor, I don't know enough about technology. But that probably makes you a better digital mentor, because I find that people who have higher level technical skills and IT backgrounds sometimes don't have the ability to break it down enough into simple language for people who are a bit scared or a bit resistant to tech. So it doesn't hurt. It's okay to not know everything as a digital mentor, and that's one of the biggest things we train our mentors in the full day training face to face. So hands up who thinks that they would not be a good digital mentor for their members. And can I ask why you would say that, Bruce and Matthew?
Jesus Christ.
Too old.
No, you're never too old.
I've suffered enough.
I've got a short fuse.
Okay, well, that's probably one.
Ask my wife.
Okay, well, my best suggestion is we don't teach our own family members. You send them to an organisation with digital mentors to be trained, because you take that sort of that family context away from it, and it's a little bit easier to be a little bit calmer. We ran a session here at our community resource centre with one of the local four-wheel drive tour operators called Reversing Trailers for the Girls, because my husband can't teach me how to reverse a trailer because it just ends in frustrations and angst and stuff. Whereas this young bloke was nice and calm, and he, you know, I've learned how to back a trailer now, so just take that away and it's a lot easier. Digital mentoring is the same. You just, like, calmness is good, patience is good. Being good with people is something that's imperative, rather than the level of IT experience. And Matthew, you're never too old, never ever too old to teach people how to do new things. We're constantly learning anyway. I went to a session in October in Perth that was Get Online Week. It was at a retirement village in the north of Perth, and I asked them how many people grew up with a microwave in their house as children. And what do you think happened there? There weren't many hands that went up. And we've all learned how to live with microwaves, haven't we? That's just a different type of technology we've learned how to use well. Maybe not with the number of blokes in the room here. Maybe I'm off on the mark there, do you reckon? So technology is all around us. Phones, tablets, computers, microwaves, video recorders that we used to have the VHS, and now there's DVDs, and things change so quickly. So it can be a bit scary for some people. So we're sort of trying to allay some of the fears if we can. And like Gary said, some of the hardest things to overcome as a digital mentor is trying to encourage people who are either fearful or resistant, because you don't know what you don't know. And so the Be-Connected project is primarily there to encourage us as organisations to coax along our resistant members and to bring them into the technical age so that they can engage confidently, competently and safely with all sorts of digital opportunities. So like I said, if you were going to be saying to someone, come along and learn how to use MyGov, you're not going to get much of an uptake. But if I was to tell you that there's all sorts of weird and wonderful things on YouTube that you could learn how to make a cabinet off YouTube, or we've got I've been doing some work with Darwin Men's Shed as well. They are printing 3D prosthetic limbs for children in third world countries in their shed. So it's pretty amazing, some of the stuff that you can do with a little bit of, I suppose, willingness to engage with different technologies. So then, like Gary said, the Wanneroo Shed's doing some amazing things with computers. They're refurbing and putting them out for sale for either not-for-profit organisations such as your sheds, or for people on lower incomes. So that's really great, because one of the biggest barriers is access to technology. So for people who are in those lower socioeconomic groups, as I mentioned, I live in Kununurra. We have a large population here who don't have access to technology. They don't have the capacity to have a computer in their home, let alone an internet connection into their home. So the focus would probably be on smartphones and devices that are portable, and then there's the access to data and so forth. It's also a potential barrier because of the cost of that. So I think groups like men's sheds around the country, as well as CRCs, libraries, etc., they've all been joining the Be-Connected program, because the idea is to provide access to people wherever they're comfortable accessing this kind of help and support. So some people might not be comfortable going to their library and asking for this kind of help. Others might not be comfortable going to their community resource centre or a neighbourhood centre. So men's sheds are a good option. That's why there's I think we're over 2,000 network partners across Australia that are part of the Be-Connected program. So it's been going for, this is the 3rd year. It was supposed to have finished at the end of June this year, but they got a year's extension just before Christmas. So there are some more grants around at the moment. That's the good news. The bad news is that the current round closes on Friday. But like Gary said, they're not onerous. They're very simple, straightforward applications. As a new network partner, you would need to apply for an activation grant, and I would encourage you to apply for the community engagement grants as well. So if you applied for those two at the same time, it would be $3,500. For that, you would have, I think they've just extended all grants by 3 months to cope with the current situation. So you would have, if you're in the metro areas, you would have 13 months to support 30 learners to embrace technology. If you're in regional locations, according to the Dr. Connect website, at a level, I can't remember what the level was, but further away from metro support, that number would be 15 over the 13 months. So it's a bit more achievable if you're in a smaller community. So that would be the activation grant target, would be those numbers of learners. For the community engagement grant, you can spend that on anything to facilitate both of those grants. You can, but the community engagement's particularly focused on events and marketing, etc., etc. If you needed to have some morning tea provided, police clearances, if you need devices, if you need to buy extra internet and data access. So anything that you need to spend this money on to deliver this project is okay. The only thing that you can't spend it on is capital works. I don't know how big of a shed you're going to get for $3,000, but anyway, that's the only thing that you can't spend the money on for those grants. As Gary mentioned, yes, sorry, Alan, yes?
So sorry, what was the last thing that you said you can't spend money on?
Capital works.
Oh, capital works. Okay, sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay. You can spend on anything else that will help you to deliver this program to your members. The only thing you can't is bricks and mortar. So you do need to have police clearances for your digital mentors as part of the agreement that you tick when you apply for this funding, just to help protect vulnerable people and to protect your shed as well. So you don't sort of want any Johnny-come-lately coming into your shed and saying, oh, I'll volunteer and be your digital mentor, and you haven't done your due diligence, etc. So it's probably better if your shed members, some of them become mentors. Like I said, you don't have to be an IT whiz. You can have the basic skills. So long as you know how to work stuff out, then you'd be a good digital mentor, I think. So, and patience, sorry. That helps. It can be challenging. So yes, so the grants that are open, like Gary said, there's one open now, but that's only for people with or for organisations with existing grants to purchase loan devices, so that if you've got people in your or members of your organisation who are not able to connect to other people during this environment, then those loan devices would be just for loaning out to vulnerable people who don't have their own devices. So, but again, that's only for sheds or organisations who are already network partners and have an existing grant that they're working on. So unfortunately, I'm not sure. Has anyone here already applied for Be-Connected funding? No? Okay. Is this the first time you've heard of Be-Connected? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, well, with that in mind, I'm just going to show you there's two portals there, so I'll just show you those. Bear with me while I get that active. Right, so excuse me while I look over to my other screen. So this is the one, so the tree of how this works is a little bit sort of odd because there are a couple of different entities. So the funding is provided by the Federal Department of Social Services, and it's managed by an English not-for-profit called the Good Things Foundation. So this, I call this the grey portal because of the grey line across the top, is for learners. This is where the topic library is. This is where people can come along and find local help. So under the find local help, say, did I hear somebody say that they're from Bustleton? Yeah. Did we have someone? Dunsborough, sorry, very close. So if I type in here Dunsborough, if I could spell it, this will show us if there are any network partners in Dunsborough. And as we can see, nobody's popping up. If we were to zoom out a bit more, there you go. Oh, your public library is a network partner. So you can see the number 1 pops up, and then down here it gives you the contact details and more information. So if somebody was looking for help in Dunsborough, that's probably where they would go. So Dunsborough Library has obviously registered as a network partner, and they may or may not have been in receipt of a grant at some stage to deliver this. Okay, so that's how people might be able to find help for themselves. Once you register, your details would go on there as well if you're shed registered. And then in here, this is the topic library. So this is, anyone can go and use this. These are open, free resources. You don't have to sign up to them to access these, but if you are in receipt of a grant and your organisation does decide to start delivering Be-Connected, I would recommend that you get your people to sign up and use this while they're signed in, because it then tracks their progress. So if they get to a certain get through a certain number of the resources and they forget where they're going or whatever, they can go and have a look and they can see what they've already completed. So it's kind of tracking for them. So in here you can see we have topics, category, and under the topics there's so we'll go through the essentials just for a point of difference. So under the topics there are courses, under the courses there are activities. So it's kind of like a little family tree that pops out from underneath it, and there's everything from the very, very basic stuff in here. And you can see the activities when we click in there, populates out and it gives you a bit of a video overview. And then I've got, what is there? There are 4 activities in each of these, and you can see that there's a bit of an idea of how long each of them should take, and it's just a read and click through and a few little activities in each of those ones. So for example, if we were to go and look at what is a screen, have to bear with me while my internet catches up. My husband's working from home too at the moment. So what is a screen? We start the activity and it gives you a rundown with some visuals so that it explains all of the parts of the computer, and it gives you, see the progress bar along the top? So it's just simple language, very clean visuals for people to go through one by one. Now, if you've got somebody who's a little bit self-directed, this, I mean, obviously with some level of experience on digital, this stuff's far too low end. So there are ones that are a bit further up there for them. And you click through, and then at the end, there's a little bit of a test. So, and that will track where they get to on that if they're signed in. Okay, so back to the topic library. If you've got people who you're trying to get connected to, to video conference type calls like FaceTime, Skype or WhatsApp, there are some particular sessions, excuse me while I think and type and talk at the same time. So in the topic library, there's a section called Connecting to Others. And in here, this has been very useful for a lot of people because there's a little bit of a video about how Carol went making video calls, and then there's a course on setting up for video calling. So there's activities under there, and you can see each of those activities. It goes through what you need, how to use the camera, and how to use the speaker and microphone. So if you've got somebody who's used a computer before but hasn't necessarily done video calls, then this might be a good spot to point them to before they start. And then the other ones that you've got a bunch of activities on how to use Skype, how to use WhatsApp, and how to use FaceTime. I'm not sure if they were going to be adding in something about Zoom. I thought that they were, but that hasn't come through yet. So they do add new topics and new activities on here on a semi-regular basis, and it's widely driven by what people want in their classroom situations and so forth. So that is the grey portal. The green one, I call it green. Some people disagree that that bar is green, but anyway, this is where you would register your organisation. So this is where you go to apply for the grants, etc., in here. You can see the Good Things Foundation on there. There's a few videos telling some stories about how other organisations have rolled out Be Connected. And in the grant program, we can click on that top one and you can either go to the overview or to each of the grants that are currently open. So again, talking about the grants, there's activation, the Building Digital Skills Grant. You could jump in and go for that one straight away, but you should probably go the activation first. The Building Digital Skills are for those organisations who had already received an activation grant and almost finished their target or are almost at the end, but you want to keep going. You've got more people that want to come on board, so you can apply for that next one. And then there's the community engagement and the digital devices. So of those, there'd be the activation and the community engagement, and that would be relevant for sheds who haven't been involved in the past. They also provide webinars and other resources for network partners that are in here. So they have a whole bunch of different, so there's a few videos on there on how other organisations are delivering. So it might be a good source of inspiration as to how you might get this up and running, etc. And their webinars are often held around 11 each morning, not every day, but there's in here we can click and have a look and see what's coming up. I haven't had a look this week, but they've got Q&A sessions about the grants that they run, getting started, an introduction to Be Connected, etc., etc. How to deliver digital skills to groups. There's a whole bunch of resources. So this is run, the green one is run by Good Things Foundation, who manage the grants. The grey one, that is run by the Office of eSafety. So this is where the learning materials are, and they also run webinars, etc. So I'm not sure where you'd go to see when they're, I'm not sure. They send emails out. Once you register, you get emails telling you what's happening and when they're on and how to register. So if you're interested, I'd suggest you go and have a look at that. Jackson and I'll send out the links to both of those portals for you if you want to go and have a bit of a look. And my contact details will come out as well, and I'm happy to have a chat if anyone wants to chat further about those. I'm happy to take questions and answers now if you like too. Okay, Bruce, go far away.
No, I don't think I've got anything for you. I just I wasn't I didn't quite know what to expect. I just saw this on the men's shed notice board,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure whether one of our guys has actually applied for any of this.
Okay.
Listening to you talk and seeing this website, I've got ideas for my wife on this one. So.
Fantastic. Excellent. Just do pop in and have a look and see on that find local help if there's anyone nearby. Where were you from, Bruce? Sorry.
Falcon.
Falcon. Okay, that's south, isn't it?
South, yeah, Mandurah.
Yep.
A suburb.
Very good.
Falcon. I think there's the e-library down in Falcon, which is fairly close to the men's shed.
Yeah.
And I believe they are involved in this. I'm not sure.
Okay.
You would probably, if you quickly look up on your website there, I'm sure on that map that you previously looked at, I'm sure it will show up Falcon.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, there's thousands of network partners around the country. So it's likely that there's been, but some of those were from the first year and some of them have not sort of continued on for delivering and stuff like that. So it depends on who's around and yes, that's you.
Do you have any connections with digital partners? I mean, one of the most basic things we've found is just people aren't connected to the internet. So we just have to go and find a provider and find how much that's going to cost, or is there somebody that Be-Connected is working with, like Telstra, that we can go straight there and get something arranged with them?
That's a very good question. I don't know that there's terribly many official connections with internet service providers or communication service providers. I do know that IINet has a special rate for fixed line services for pensioners or seniors card holders, sorry. I think Telstra may have something special on at the moment because of COVID. So it would be worth having a look on their websites and so forth. I'm not sure that, I'll just have a quick look on here. I've not been asked that before.
Well, for instance, Telstra have this thing called Telstra Air, right, which is basically, you can connect to the internet virtually anywhere in the city environment, in the built-up environment.
Yep.
And you need to be a Telstra customer to get onto that. But also, if you just go on a day, you can buy a day pass if you're not a Telstra customer, but it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's not a particularly effective way of getting, people with low economic means attached. But the service is there, and it's give or take free to anybody who can hook into it. But it's just, how do you go about accessing that for more people than just yourself?
Yes, I've not ever had any luck with Telstra Air. I'm a Telstra customer. I have been for a number of years, and they are my. Okay, thanks, Tim. I've been a mobile client of Telstra's for a very long time, and whenever I'm travelling, I do try and hook into those, but it's just not ever worked out for me. So, okay, thanks, Tim. So I haven't managed to connect successfully with that. So, but I do know that fixed line services are a lot cheaper than mobile broadband services. So if you're going with Telstra Mobile but then I'm not sure, I mean, I live in the country. If I'm not on Telstra, I'm not getting a mobile service that's reliable. It's basically Telstra or nothing for us. Even though we have Vodafone and Optus in town, it's not worth me trying to connect to those. So I think the competition in the metro area is probably a bit better to keep prices down. But mobile broadband is an expensive way to consume your data. I would probably recommend looking into fixed line services more so. Westnet IINet was a West Australian established business, and so I do know that they have got a special discounted rate for seniors card holders. So.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Can't hear you, Jason. Jackson. That's better.
Oh.
Thanks very much.
I
was just wondering, in a situation like the Falcon Shed has, where they are in pretty close proximity to another partner, is there any sort of restriction on the amount of geographical? No. So it's all...
No. The reason why the grants are so small is because they want to spread it out as widely as they can to organisations across the country, so that, like I said before, no matter where you feel comfortable, you've got the opportunity. So some people might not be comfortable going to the library to access that kind of support, and some people might not be comfortable going to their men's shed. So to have a couple in the one community is not that big of a problem. Metro, it's probably a lot easier to meet your targets because of the fact that you've got a bigger population around you. Regional communities, I'd probably recommend you talk to your existing network partners. I know that one of our community resource centres that I've been working with since the beginning, their idea was for their CRC to be the first one, and that's what they did. And so then they reached out to their men's shed. So the men's shed came along and did some training with me in November in Albany. And so now the men's shed are their own network partner in their own right. And the next one that the CRC is focusing on is the CWA. So the CWA ladies are then being brought in, and the view is for them to then apply for their own grant as well, so that they can continue building on what the CRC had started. So hub and spoke, it's great when communities do work together for the greater good, because sometimes there can be that potential for organisations to hold things into themselves and not sort of want to share. But I think we're all trying to work towards the same thing. The Good Things Foundation are very, very reasonable. These grants are not huge. It's not an onerous task to support your 30 or your 15 learners. But if you don't get that many, so long as you can show that you've been trying, they're not going to come knocking on your door and asking for the grant back. They want to see you do everything you can to just try and get that number reached. And they love to see your good news stories as well. So, yeah.
Good.
Yes, Gary.
Natika, I missed Gary's talk at the beginning, so and I know he was talking about the grant applications. How onerous is that just to do the grant applications?
It's not onerous at all. They're online. The hardest thing is to make sure that the portal stays up while you're applying. So my suggestion would be copy and paste the questions into a Word document, write your grant up into a Word document, and then when you're happy with it, pop it in there. So basically I'll go and log in, and I'll get one open for you so you can have a look. There's half a dozen questions for each one. We've applied for our Rotary Club, so we're in receipt of 2 of their grants for our Rotary Club, so that we can help our members. Okay, it's not letting me in. Okay, I'm going to be the Rotary Club then. That's it. Okay, so I'll just go back and share. So when you're in the grants program, say for example, I'm going to apply for the community engagement grant. There's an apply here button. But you also can download PDFs with the schedule, so how often these grants are out, what are the guidelines, what are the things that they're expecting you to deliver, etc. So that's, if I go back and go down the bottom here, there's the grant guidelines, that's just a PDF, the grant timetable, terms and conditions, and then the application button. If I was to download the guidelines, that pretty much has the grant questions in there. So we can scroll through there. Oh, where is it? Okay, we'll go and apply. Community engagement. So I think so normally the community engagement grant, you'd have 3 months to deliver on that. from what I'm reading, I think that they've extended that out to 6 months, to give you 6 months to deliver on that one. So if I was to apply here, you can go and find all of your questions. So if you've got more than one organisation, that can be a little bit. So it will tick that you've met the eligibility criteria on there, and then you need to agree to that first question that you can select yes, that you have to. So you can use these resources for anybody in your community. They don't have to be over 50. However, for them to count towards your target number, they need to be 50 or older, because apparently 50 is older under this. So that's pretty good, because it gives you a bigger pool of people to scoop from. So in here you need to pick whether you are regional or metro. So I would go regional, because I am, and then the target or the target groups that you're working towards. So you must select that it's older people. And then if you have other groups in your shed that you are targeting as well, then you can tick others, but you must select the older people. So the first question is itemised budget. That's only a 200-word maximum on there, so that's easy. The next one is demonstrating how you'll use the courses and the resources that they have online. Again, a 200-word limit. And then another 200-word limit. How many free one-to-one or group sessions will you provide? And then what sort of marketing will you do? So this is the community engagement one. So this is the one to get the word out about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Whereas the activation grant, or was that the activation that I was in? Oh, that was activation, yeah. So that's where you need to say how you're going to do it. So there's, what were there, 5 or 6 questions? Very simple, maximum 200 words each one. Type them out in a Word document and then copy and paste them into that when you're ready to apply. Just in case you get a glitchy internet connection and it drops, because there's no save function on there. So definitely have it in a Word document is my best tip.
So the first thing you got to do is register, I gather.
Yep, that's right. Register your shed. So long as you're prepared to help people, then there shouldn't be any problems with that. Incorporation status is useful, but not 100% necessary. So long as, oh, actually it might be now. They weren't worried too much about it before, but if you've got an ABN, that would be good. So, yeah. So that's relatively simple, just to sign. So what you need to do is sign up on that green one. And then once you've signed up on that green one, you need to sign up on the grey one as well with the same number, because you have to set up your organisation. It's a little bit convoluted, but there's a help section in there, and I'm happy to take any calls if you want to bounce some stuff off me about how to do this, that and the other. So, yeah.
Given you've written a number of applications already, how about sending us a free sample?
Oh, I could send you our Rotary Club one.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, sure. I don't mind doing that. Yeah, we've just started doing our Rotary meetings online too. So we've got a relatively young group in our club, but we do still have some people who, I mean, we've got farmers, etc., who are on satellite connections, etc. So we've got a few challenges to overcome to get everyone online. We had 10 or 11 of us on board the other day, so that's about half of our membership. So I was pretty happy with that. So yeah, good fun. All right, anyone else have any other specific questions on either the grants or being a digital mentor or anything like that? I can do the whip around the room if you like. James, anything to?
Just trying to get the technology to work.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, nothing from me. I think, as Jackson said, I'm from Mensheds of WA as well, but as Jackson said, I think recording this, and if we can post this in our Facebook group, I think it'll be really useful to quite a number of the Mensheds across well.
keep an eye out for those grants, because I would expect that once these ones finish, there'll be a new round opening next month, but they haven't announced them yet. So, like I said, the information's only current at the moment, and that will potentially change. They may or may not open a new round up next week. It might be a couple of weeks away, but yeah, just depends. They're sort of all turning